You already know this. One night of bad sleep can absolutely decimate the next day's productivity, but it's worse than that because it impacts the rest you have on the following night. It takes you out for days at a time, and what often keeps us awake and not sleeping well is simply the stress that we're going under. So today, we're gonna talk about how to fix that. Hi, my name is Tyus. I make videos about personal liberty, escaping the rat race, living your freest life possible. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, hit that button over here somewhere. There's a bell too, you should hit that too. And today we're gonna talk about something that everybody does. Pooping? No, we're gonna talk about sleeping. And without a great night's rest, if you have a problem sleeping on a regular basis, it leads to anxiety, depression, memory problems. You can even end up with like heart disease or having a stroke from it. It's actually really, really serious from a health perspective. It dramatically impacts your productivity. So this video is all about how to sleep when you're under such significant stress that your mind won't let you go to bed. Now, I already made a video about how to sleep better. In fact, it will be linked up here somewhere. But this video is different because there's a lot of videos out there that actually talk about how to sleep better. They give different tips, different tricks, and we can talk about that stuff, melatonin and the temperature of your room and wearing an eye mask and all of those good little tips. But what they often don't address is what is keeping you awake, which is often our stress levels. That is often what keeps our mind racing, and it keeps our thoughts keep bouncing around in our head so we never get to rest. And for me, this fell into a vicious cycle because I would find myself stressed out, and so I would look for a distraction to try and get my brain off of this cycle. So I would turn on the TV, or I'd pull out my phone and play games on it, or I'd go to social media. And this just brought me to screens that kept me awake because now I'm looking at bright lights when I should be sleeping. And I try and go back to sleep. This would bring up the bad negative thoughts or the stress that I was dealing with, and then I would go right back to these screens that would keep me awake, and it just destroyed my sleep cycles. And if this is happening to you, I want to tell you how I got through this. The little bit of magic that we're going to exploit here involves association. If you haven't heard of Pavlov's dogs, there was this scientist named Ivan Pavlov who would ring a bell for his dogs before giving them food. After doing this over and over and over again, the dogs associated food with the sound of that bell. And so even without feeding the dogs, he could ring the bell and the dogs would start to salivate. This is because their brain linked up the sound to receiving food. And we do the exact same thing. Our brains are, pretty similar to that of dogs. So if you go to Disneyland, you'll notice that there's the smell of popcorn and pastries in the air. That's not by accident. That is pumped into the park because when you smell it, you associate the pleasure of eating popcorn and pastries. And then you go and buy them. So it increases Disney's sales and it becomes worthwhile. Why is this important? Well, because you can associate negative things to bedtime. So if you repeatedly think about the things that make you stressed out right before going to bed, you might get into bed and every single time your brain will jump to what is stressing me out? Why can't I sleep? It will think about all the negative things that prevent you from getting a great night's rest. And so this is why it is crazy important that you have a sleep routine put in place, a routine that breaks that cycle. Because if the current routine is stress and bed and not sleeping, we need to create a different routine that breaks it. But what do you do with all the stress that you're experiencing? It's easy to say, oh, don't stress out before going to sleep, but it's ridiculous to expect people just not to stress out. It's something that we all do. It's kind of like having a fitness coach say, oh, you want to lose weight? Well, just stop eating. Eventually you're going to get hungry. It's something that you need to do, and that's because stress serves a function in our existence. Stress is a mechanism that tells us, hey, we need to prepare for something. There's something important coming down the line that we need to get in front of or behind or whatever. We need to get ready to handle what's on the way. So it serves a function for us. The thing is, when we put off stressing, when we say, I'm not going to stress about this, eventually our brain goes, you need to prepare, and it brings it up in our consciousness. So we put it off during our day. So here's what I suggest. This is what worked for me. Don't put it off. Set up a very specific time to experience stress. I call this intentional stress. Now you want to find the right time in the day. So I don't like doing this in the morning because I don't want to start my day by stressing out a little bit. but I also don't want to put it off so that it happens at the end of my day, and now my sleep is associated with my stress. So I intentionally put it after I work, but before I have dinner. That's when I give myself a little block of time to intentionally stress. And what does that look like? It's not just me sitting there in a panicked state. Intentional stress actually has a method, and this is what it looks like. I start off by writing out a list. I like to make lists, it's one of my things. But I start off by writing out a list of everything that stresses me out. This might be my things in work. This could be things in my social life. This could be my health and my nutrition and things that might be in the news. All of those things, I start writing them down. And then there is 2 things that I must do with this list. The first and by far the most important thing that I do with this list after I write it down is that I do not file it away. If I take this and I say, okay, out of sight, out of mind, and I get rid of it, what will happen is my brain will know that I am not going to be looking at it, that I might lose all this information that I just downloaded from my mind, and it's going to bring those thoughts right back in. It's going to say, hey, you're just trying to ignore this, when in reality, you need to address it. So I don't want to file it away. I want to make sure that I address it. By filing it away, it's a huge mistake. It just brings these thoughts right back up. You must take action upon them. That's the first thing that I do with the list. The second thing I do with the list is I consolidate it. And the way I consolidate it is I know I'm going to be taking action on things, but if it's a really long list, if I have a lot of stress about a lot of things, if I'm an anxious person, which sometimes I am, then I need to look at it and identify what are things that I can take action upon and what are things that I can't. Because if I can't take action upon something, then I have no control over it. And if I have no control over it, well, I might as well stop worrying about it because it's going to happen whether I want it to or not. It's not something that I have autonomy over. And so I'm going to focus on the things that I do have autonomy over. However, I will tell you a little secret, a little trick, a thing that happens to me on the regular and what to do about it. There are things that I will cross off my list because I'll say, you know what? The weather. I have no control over the weather. Oh, I'm stressed out about who's going to be the next president. Well, I've got no control over that besides one vote, which really isn't going to influence anything. So I'm going to cross that off my list. So you start crossing these things off your list, but then they keep coming back to your mind, even though you don't feel like you have control over them. And I'll tell you what your brain's actually trying to get the message across to you. The message it's trying to send is that you may have some control that you're not thinking about. So, for example, maybe the thing that I'm stressed about is that I might get robbed. Maybe I'm afraid that I might get robbed. Well, I look at that on my list and I'm like, I can't control a robber. I mean, if a robber's going to rob me, they're going to do it. I can't control somebody else's actions, so I might as well cross it off my list. Well, if that keeps coming back into my mind, maybe there is something that I can control within that, and I need to investigate that thought more. Maybe if I'm afraid of being robbed, I could install an alarm system. Maybe I could learn some self-defense. Maybe I need to move to a safer neighborhood. This could happen not only with robbery as an example, but let's say the weather. Maybe I'm stressing about tomorrow's weather. Well, I can't control tomorrow's weather, but I could pack an umbrella. I could dress more appropriately for whatever weather might be coming. Maybe I need to adjust where I'm hanging out the following day so that I don't find myself caught in the rain. I can only cross off the things that I can't control, but I need to be cognizant of the things that I can control within that. If I do these 2 things with this list, I write everything down, I take it, I make sure I don't file it away. I'm going to create action items around what I do with these things. So I'm not filing the list away, and I'm removing the things that I can't control from the list. It reduces my stress levels tremendously. Now, you do have to have a process of getting these things at a later time, and I did make a video about how to get things done, which I will link to right up there. So this begs the question, if I'm not stressing out, if I'm not thinking about all the pressures I have in my life and giving myself anxiety right before I go to bed, what do I spend my just before sleep thoughts thinking about? What's going through my mind before I sleep? How do you replace those thoughts with something else when you don't know what you want to replace them with? Well, here's what I did. I simply replaced them with gratitude. I sit in bed and I think of all the things that I'm thankful for, and there's a lot of them. There's a great movie called White Christmas, and in it there's a song that I love that starts with the lyrics, "When I'm tired and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep," which is hard to say with Invisalign in because I just have a natural lisp. So sheep is not my easiest word. Anyways, I try and think about all the things that I'm thankful for, things that are wonderful that are going on in life, the great relationships that I have, all of the wonderful abundance that I experience from day to day, the ample amount of information that is available at my fingertips that just a few generations ago wouldn't have been. So I'm very, very grateful, and it makes me fall asleep with positive thoughts. I think of great dreams. Now, I also relax my body, I'm relaxing my muscles, I focus on my breathing a little bit. So there's things that I'm doing as far as relaxation is concerned, but what my thoughts are is constantly that of gratitude. This process has really worked for me, and it makes me sleep like a baby, not to mention the fact that I've got all those other sleep tricks and hacks. I care a lot about sleep because rest and recovery is so important. If you're trying to go to bed right now and you're up watching this on social media, take out a piece of paper and start writing out that list. Get that work done right now so that those thoughts aren't bouncing around in your brain. Right now, don't spend a bunch of time watching my other videos. Do that later, and you can do that by subscribing below or share these videos with people that you love so they get to see them. I hope to see you on the next video, but if you need a good night's sleep, go get that right now.